Hello, truth seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, here's another bitter truth about the enlightenment path. The enlightenment journey is not a blissful journey at all. It is not. If you think it's a blissful journey, then you haven't even started the path yet. The real journey is about going to war with yourself. It is a war. It is a war because the real journey is about letting go of all identification in you. And just by hearing letting go of everything already creates a lot of friction for a lot of people. Why? Because everyone's whole life is about identifying oneself with something and building life on it. And most of the people have already found a comfort, a sudden flow, stability, and fun from identifying with whatever identification is that. So when you are getting stability, fun, flow from your identification, how can it be blissful to let go of that? Especially your ego don't want to let go. And right now, who you are is the ego self. When you're identifying yourself with certain belief and maintaining the belief, that is the ego self. Ego self thrives on identification. Ego self is about identifying and prolonging the game. And ego self resists to let go. So when you are afraid to let go, when you feel the friction by the idea of letting go, your ego self in you is feeling the heat. Now, some people right away feel the friction, feel the heat with the idea of letting go, and some people are able to let go partially. And partial letting go is not true letting go. Partial letting go is simply whatever the person has outgrown or whatever thing is not working, the person is able to let go. And that is not true freedom. And when person is able to let go something, the person is simply creating a space for something else to come in. That's what's happening. So if you are able to let go something, you are creating a space for something to invite, isn't it? You think of your relationship with another person as a partner, or think of the relationship with the job. You're able to let go certain job because you have upgraded yourself for a higher paying job or better job. If the relationship with your partner is not healthy, you recognize that. And you don't want to be in that relationship, so you give up that just to create a space for better relationship. So it's just exchanging sort of stuff. And that itself is the ego's game. Ego is upgraded so much. Ego self recognizes better is good. So ego makes the person to seek for new level of experience, new level of relationship. So the partial letting go doesn't work. To figure out the truth of oneself, all identification must go, because the identification itself is the layers in the person, and that's not who you are. You are the background that supports all layers to rise and fall, appear and disappear. And to see the raw background, the raw nature of who you are, everything must go. So, if you reflect in your life by doing the partial letting go, am I free? Now, in the spiritual path, the freedom is from the mind and its byproduct. And byproduct is the fear. Are you free from your fear? Are you free from your mental trauma? If the mental trauma is there, if the fear is there, then your letting go is not true letting go. It's the relative letting go. The relative aspect of the life must be discarded to see the truth. So, real journey is a war. It's a battle with yourself. And in this battle, you have to destroy yourself to see the truth. To win, you must die. That's enlightenment journey. Even people who are involved in spiritual work, the battle is not even on yet. And if people don't feel the war with oneself in the spiritual practice, that indicates that the ego is doing the spiritual work. The ego is doing the spiritual work, and ego loves to do the spiritual work. Ego loves to identify with spirituality, because that is the highest identification for the ego self, isn't it? Spirituality is the highest layer in the world. The spirituality gives the direction, the highest direction, highest purpose. And ego loves to identify with that and maintain the path just to avoid the death of the ego. Ego loves to create an illusion in oneself and showing that there is a spiritual path happening. But the spiritual path happening is to avoid the death of the ego. And ego will prolong the spiritual game to by creating an illusion and giving the false hope that the spiritual path is on, but leads nowhere. And that's what everyone's pretty much person who is not aware of one's true nature, then the ego is doing the work. Even the person who is aware of certain things in the spiritual practice, that practice still happening from the place of idea. So the idea will be there, the layers of the mind still there, until the truth is realized, truth is seen. The difference is stubborn ego is doing the spiritual work, or the positive ego is doing the work. That's the difference. Now, look, in the world there are certain practices as a spirituality, and nowadays meditation is the trend, isn't it? Now, meditation, if the person is aware, the meditation can help the person to be self-aware, and from there the work can be done to dissolve the ego. But right now, that's not the reality, that's not the scenario. Everybody is sitting in the meditation with an idea and lost in the technical side of the meditation. And the technical side of the meditation creates experience, mystical experiences above the mundane experience. And when those things happens in the meditation, then those experiences also makes the person to get stuck in the real path, makes the person to stuck in that experience and avoid the real path. And that is already happening, by the way. And when the mystical experience happens, people love to seek for that experience or try to create similar experience from the memory of the past experience. And that is the world right now. And if you reflect in your life, you will realize that you're doing that too. When the experience comes in such a way as a mystical experience, it's easy to get lost in it, because by not knowing what true spirituality is about, or even the person have the reference, the true reference about the spirituality, the experience makes the person forget the reference. So that's why, person must recognize or have the concept or reference in oneself that truth is not an idea nor an experience. No matter how amazing experience will come in the consciousness, it's not true. Why? Because the real journey is about figuring out the background. That suppose, again, all experiences come and go. It's about recognizing the plain sight truth. That is the consciousness itself. So, people are already lost by not knowing it or forgetting, and that's what happens. And not knowing and forgetting makes the person get stuck in the spiritual practice in the limited approach of the spirituality. And for the ego self, again, it seems like for the ego self, there's identification of spirituality, and that is enough for the ego self. And even the ego, when the person realizes that it's about giving up everything, the ego will do everything not to do anything more in the spiritual journey. And just being okay with the spiritual identification. And that's why where people sit in the meditation and control the body, and that is good enough for them. but that doesn't help to dissolve the fear in the person. So every time the person feels the conflict in life, and life unfolds in a way that life is always puts the person in a way that to experience the conflict. And the conflict is there to figure out why the conflict arises in the first place. Life is always teaching, but we ignore the teaching. How do you know that you ignore the teaching? Is by running away from the situation, running away from the moment. And when people run away from the life's conflict, the struggle, the pain, people be part of the meditation, just to ignore the situation. So that kind of an act is escaping from the living reality, the functioning reality. Disengaging from the struggle is fine, but ignoring is not fine. Because of the ignorant, the ignoring the situation, the struggle, the fear, the conflict is already there. And the purpose of the spiritual practice is to overcome them. So running away is not. So right now, people tendency is that people run away from the situation to be part of the spiritual work. But the spiritual work is about, their spiritual work is about controlling the body. And that's it. And for the ego self, that is already good enough. Controlling the body to relaxing, calming is enough. Yeah, you can calm as much as you want. You can relax as much as you want. You can control your breath as much as you want. You can go through the mystical experience as much as you want. But that doesn't solve the problem in life. To solve the problem in life, one must look into the situation, investigate the situation, figuring out the root cause of the situation, and also eliminating the root as well. Because the root itself is making the person move in a way that the conflict, the struggle is always resurfacing, and from there, the mental drama is continuing, the fear is continuing. So the root has to be eliminated as well. And that's the way to, slowly loosen the ego and eventually figure out the truth, the unchanging truth. And looking into the situation, working on the situation is the war with oneself. It's a battle. And somewhere in the inward journey, the person will feel intense fear. And the one has to go through the intense fear. And that's where the person will be able to be free from the fear if the person stays open to explore why the fear is there in the first place. So again, the spiritual journey is a war with oneself. It's the battle one must die. The ego must die. And self-inquiry is the approach. So, When you hear one must die, people have a wrong perception about dying in the spiritual path. People think to give up life. If someone is going in that extreme to cut the cord with life, to harm the body, that itself is the extreme ego, the extreme negative narration going on. That's why the person is trying to end the life. But the spiritual path is not about ending life. The spiritual journey is about figuring out why the struggle is there in the first place and figuring out the truth. And when the truth is seen, then the ego that dissolves the ego, and there's a freedom while we are still breathing and functioning. And that's the whole purpose of the spiritual work. It's not about hurting yourself. So if you have that thinking, remember that is your ego narrating to end the life, because ultimate death, the physical death, is the ultimate freedom for sure, because when there's no body, when you don't have the body, you don't feel pain. And that also indicates there's no ego. So yes, it's the end to struggle. But ending the struggle is not that in the spiritual path. It's about death of the ego. Death of the ego can happen with self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is a non-violent path. It's about witnessing one's mind and investigating the mind. And investigating the mind is the way to understand the nature of the mind. And understanding the nature of the mind makes the person to simplify life. And when there's a simplicity going on, then the person is able to investigate further of one's own mind, and that will help the person to eventually see the truth as well. So that's the journey. Okay, again, when you are walking inward, it's a war with yourself. It's a war with yourself because you are watching yourself and you're investigating your mind. So when you're investigating the mind, you will start to see the root cause of the struggle. And your life is still happening from the root. You are prolonging your perception and action from the root, because the root itself is the ingrained conditioning in you. That you listen to that conditioning because that conditioning, again, gives you certain flow, fun, stability. There is something that you get, getting from that conditioning. Even you are struggling, even there's a fear, you listen to that because it is a comfort for you, comfort with the struggle, and you're not able to let go of that. And spiritual freedom is about letting go of the ingrained conditioning as well, and especially when your life is getting support from that conditioning, and spirituality asks you to let go that conditioning. That's where the fear comes in, isn't it? Now once you start to fear, it's a real journey. You have to see your fear and you have to investigate your fear. So when you see the fear, you can't give up. If you want to dissolve the fear and live life fearlessly, you have to investigate the fear. So again, the inquiry journey is a non-violent path. So when you see the fear, you have to work on your fear. You have to ask yourself, why? Why am I afraid of letting go? And then you see the further layers of fear in you. And when you keep tracing back, then you start to, you will end up with a no mind. And basically, you have to investigate all aspects of your life. You have to trace your mind, or trace your struggle, or trace your fear, trace your attachment backward, all the way that will lead you to no mind. And that is a preparation. Tracing the mind backward, it becomes a good foundation, prepares you to see the absolute truth. And if you have maintained the uncompromising attitude, unbiased attitude in dismantling the mind, then when you ask yourself, that's where you click. That's where you catch yourself. That's where you see that ego cannot comprehend the truth. And from there, you rest in who you are as a consciousness. And the nature of the consciousness is conscious and empty. You rest in emptiness, but conscious. You become that, and your life unfolds from there. And consciousness is the plain sight truth. And that is you without your mind, you without the identification. And to get there, the journey is about peeling the layers. And peeling the layers, disidentifying the layers, is a friction. It's the war one will feel when walking inward. Okay? So here's the exercise. There's a struggle in your life, everyone's life, no doubt. When the struggle is there, there's a mental narration unfolds from the struggle. So just inquiry on your struggle. Why am I struggling? Just sit with that and see how far you can trace your mind backward. When you ask, why am I struggling? There's a struggle, no doubt. When you ask yourself, there should be an answer. Whatever answer resurface, now use that answer. Why is that important? So keep using the why to every answer you see, and see how far you can go back. Okay, I hope this video makes sense to you. Sorry to disappoint you by poking the bubbles of your spiritual path. And spirituality is not a blissful journey. Again, if you think it's a blissful, you haven't even started the path yet. Okay, it's the war. It's a war you must die to win. And what's the win? Is to see yourself, see your true nature. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching this video. Take care for now, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.